friend of the show. Let's bring in Bryce Eldridge. Let's welcome in Lee Jung-hoo. Let's welcome in Wade Boggs. Let's bring in Will the Thrill. He's the ace of the staff. Let's welcome in Logan Webb. Logan, how are you today?
I'm doing good. Good to be on here.
Welcome to Extra Innings with Bill Laskey.
Giants sweep the LA Dodgers.
Sponsored by Lunardi's Markets of the Bay Area. Quite simply the best. Right here on your exclusive home of the San Francisco Giants. KNBR, the sports leader.
Here's a grab to short. Basabe to his left. He's got it. Underhands it to the second baseman Furman for the force out on Stevenson, and that brings it to an end. The Giants, for the record, I don't think there are records in the Cactus League. Records anybody keeps track of anyway, except Cactus League historians. The Giants win their first Cactus League game of the 2026 season, 10-5 over the Mariners.
Welcome into the Extra Inning post-game show as we start off the 2026 baseball season in Peoria, Arizona, where the San Francisco Giants win their first game 10-5 against the Seattle Mariners, and Tony Vitello gets his first win as the new manager of the San Francisco Giants. So many new faces, so many new things to talk about. Today is our first show of the 2026 season. I want to welcome all of you in. My name's Bill Laskey, and we're going to talk about this Giants team for the next couple hours. Got a couple great interviews coming up also. I got down and talked to Arizona. In Arizona, talked to Daniel Susac. Of course, Daniel came over in a Rule 5. He got picked up by the Minnesota Twins, and the Giants traded for him. Had a nice conversation with him, welcoming into the orange and black. And, of course, always in the beginning of the year, I talked to my good buddy Joey Amalfitano, 92 years young, as we reminisce on a lot of things that he saw earlier days, as well as being a coach and a manager. So two great interviews as the show continues, and we talk about this Giants team welcoming in a new manager, a new coaching staff, a lot of new faces. But today was a day where they put the uniform on and it counted. They ended up traveling to Peoria, and the Giants fell behind 5-0 on a disappointing first inning by Hayden Birdsong, a pitcher that I got to talk to a little bit last year and again this spring. And he was dialed in. He wanted to be aggressive. He wanted to throw strikes, and it just didn't work out for him. He only went a third of an inning, giving up a grand slam to get taken out of the game. A mental part of the game, he's just going to have to get over a couple walks. He got ahead of hitters, but again, a couple ground balls that coulda, woulda, maybe could have been caught, but they didn't. And he ended up only going a third of an inning for the first game. But what happened after that? 9 relief pitchers going 8 2/3 innings, giving up 6 hits, no runs. They shut him out after that with 5 walks and 9 strikeouts. We'll talk about a few of those relief pitchers, and the bullpen is really wide open. Looks like Ryan Walker could be the closer, but Buster Posey said, hey, competition is what we want. He's got a lot of new faces down there, a lot of new arms, and a few of them pitched today, so we'll get to talk about that. But I think I want to go back into a little bit about Hayden Birdsong. Hayden Birdsong, of course, started in the bullpen last year, ended up being a starter, and really just couldn't throw strikes. Ended up going to AAA and struggled in AAA. He ended up doing some things over the winter, mechanical, a lot of mental work, trying to forget about the things he had done in the 2025 season. And today was a rebirth for him, but it just couldn't get it done. And you look at what he did today, 26 pitches, 14 for strikes. He got ahead of hitters. Of course, the first hit, infield hit. That really struggled right there. Fitzgerald playing shortstop today. Just couldn't come up with a ball. And then a walk by Young. Wisdom ended up getting a ground ball by Casey Schmidt at third base. And at that time, John Miller and, Dwayne Kuiper also both said, you know, those balls coulda, woulda been caught. But again, in the hard surfaces of Arizona, it just didn't happen. But then after that, he got an out by Connor Joe with a shortstop fielding the ball, thrown over to first base. Ended up walking Kinsner. Of course, Kinsner played catcher for the Giants last year. But the bomb, a grand slam first pitch, and that just did feel good. No question about it. It sunk him, and that's what's going to be a tough one to come away from. And Tony Vitello went right to the bullpen, ended up pulling a relief pitcher in Tyler Vogel, a minor leaguer, to come in, and he ended up getting 2/3 out and got out of the inning. But those things right there, you just wonder how Hayden Birdsong's going to get through this. A young 24-year-old right-hander's got major league stuff, and he's right back in the same doldrum he was in 2025. So some things have to change, and I'm sure Hayden Birdsong's going to get another opportunity. But after that, boy, the bullpen really shut him down. As I said, 9 pitchers came in and shut the door down for the Mariners. On the offensive side, Harrison Bader had a nice double in the second inning to right center field, ending up 2 RBIs. Bryce Eldridge had a nice opposite field double in the third inning after Elliot Ramos had a double, a couple doubles back to back. The Giants did rally back to score 4 in the second, 1 in the third to tie the game up. And then really the youngsters came back in the 7th inning with a run, and then they scored 4 in the 8th to pull away from this game. And when you start looking at what these guys can do, and that's when the changeover comes over in spring training games, and you get some of the young guys from the minor leagues, as well as free agents coming over in minor league free agency, as well as signings. And these are opportunities for young players to get a chance to show Tony Vitello, as well as Buster Posey, who was in the audience today, opportunities. And I think that's the biggest thing in spring training. We talk about the bullpen, and I go back and forth from the pitching to the offense, but pitching is a big thing. And I think everybody understands the bullpen is a big question mark, but there are a lot of good arms down there. Blade Tidwell, who came over from Tyler Rogers' trade, pitched a real nice inning today. He ended up going 1 inning, walked 1, but he punched out 3. A high 90s fastball with a tight slider. Opportunities for Blade Tidwell right there. And eyes are wide open. Of course, University of Tennessee pitched for Tony Vitello, so there is some history there. Jose Buto, who another one came over for the Tyler Rogers deal, pitched pretty well last year for the Giants. He had a nice inning. He ended up going 1 hit, 1 walk, but he got out of it with a punch out. He threw 21 pitches, 13 for strikes. Michael Fulmer, a right-hander who's had some time in the big leagues with the Minnesota Twins, the Cubs, Boston, but I think everybody remembers him from the Detroit Tigers. He had a nice clean inning, 1 inning with 2 punch-outs, 16 pitches, 9 for strikes. Nick Margevich coming over from the Mariners as well as San Diego, a left-hand specialist, had a nice 1-2-3 inning with a punch-out. Caleb Killian, pitcher that pitched for the Cubs, had a nice 1-1. He gave up 1 hit in his inning, throwing only 9 pitches, 7 of them for strikes. These are the names that we're going to be looking at through the spring as they're fighting for positions in that bullpen. Juan Sanchez, a left-hander, came up through the minor leagues with the San Francisco Giants, ended up having Tommy John. He was out most of the year last year, pitched a little bit in fall ball. Really a high 90s fastball. Got out of an inning, threw 22 pitches, 11 for strikes. And then a couple other minor leaguers, Braxton Roxby, who came over from the Reds for the Taylor Rogers trade. He threw 1 inning, and Nick Swack, a minor leaguer that's coming through the minor leagues. But these are opportunities. I keep throwing that word out there, but these are things where you want everybody at the big league level to see if you're capable of getting people out. Doesn't matter if they're minor leaguers or big leaguers, as well as on the offensive side that the San Francisco Giants pulled out there in the 7th and 8th innings, scoring some runs, 5 runs to open up the game. But these are all things that happen, and this is the first game of spring training, and you look at the roster and how many players played, and you're talking about 10 pitchers already in the mix, and they got opportunities to pitch today, and those are good things. But the Giants end up winning 10-5 against the Seattle Mariners. They go and home opener tomorrow with most of the regulars to play, and Robbie Ray will get on the mound at 12:05 start. But we'll take a quick break, come back with more, talk offense, talk some more pitching. My name's Bill Laskey. This is the first extra inning post-game show, getting excited for everything. So let's take a break and come back with more right here on KNBR, the sports leader.
Thank you.
The game may be over, but we know you want to talk more ball. So KNBR Extra Innings with Bill Laskey continues.
Sponsored by Lenardi's Markets of the Bay Area. Quite simply, the best.
We are KNBR 104.5 and 6.8, the sports leader.
In throws. Swinging a drive to left. Vestraboni back, and it's over his head, and it rolls up against the wall. Ramos comes in to score. Eldridge into second base with a double, and this game is tied. So the young man comes up with a game-tying double to the opposite field.
Welcome back to the Extra Inning Post-Game Show. First show in the 2026 season. Of course, the Giants win. They go to Seattle in Peoria and pick up a win, 10-5. They're 1-0. And tomorrow, opening game in Scottsdale. And boy, oh boy, it's going to be a fun game against the Chicago Cubs. First pitch right here at 12:05. John Miller and Dwayne Kuiper. And an hour earlier, you can hear Kerry Crowley on the warm-up show. And I'll be doing the post-game show right after. So exciting time. Spring has sprung, and Extra Innings will be on for the 2026 season. But today, it just was one of those bad days for Hayden Birdsong, and the Giants rallied back after down 5. They scored 4 in the second, 1 in the third, 1 in the seventh, and 4 in the eighth to pull out the victory. 10 runs, 13 hits, and a couple key hits there that I talked about a little earlier, but I want to get into one at Drew Gilbert coming up in the 8th inning. After Buddy Kennedy, who used to play with the Dodgers, hit a triple in the sun, a couple sun balls that were missed by the Mariners. Rodriguez came in as his backup shortstop, hit a ground ball to short, but Drew Gilbert in a pinch hitting role, he filled in for Eric Haas and hit a nice base hit to right field. Things that are good for Drew Gilbert coming in to get those clutch hits. As we always remember, runners in scoring position. Today the Giants were 7 for 19 in that. But those are things. These are things that are key points when you see younger players that could be bench players to come up in key situations and get those key hits. And I thought that was a good game by Drew Gilbert coming up with that nice hit. Basabe, another one, a shortstop that's been around for a while, had a nice base hit also in the 8th inning. And Nate Furman, a guy that's been through the minor leagues with the San Francisco Giants, had a nice double in the 8th inning. Couple key hits. That's what I look at when you start looking at some of the younger players. And I love talking about the players we don't know much about. And I'm going to start doing a little bit of that in spring. I love talking to younger players, getting them a chance to talk on the airwaves, getting a little bit to know them. I ended up talking to Diego Cartella, a backup catcher. He was a number 1 pick by the LA Dodgers. Ended up going to the Minnesota Twins. The Giants picked him up. Had a chance to talk to him this week. We'll hear his interview as the spring goes. But you start listening to their drive. You start listening to their heartbeat. You start listening to what makes them a major league player. And those are the players I love to talk to and learn a little bit about them. So we'll hear about Diego later in the spring. But today, a good one today as we find out about Daniel Susac, who could possibly be the backup catcher to Patrick Bailey. Of course, we know Andrew Susac, who played with the Giants in 2014 as a backup catcher to Buster Posey, ended up getting a World Series ring. And Daniel's got that drive. He's a good catcher, quality catcher. Got a nice base hit today, blocked a couple nice balls, got a cannon for an arm. So you'll hear a little bit about him later on in my interview. 415-808-KNBR if you want to get on the phone lines. Got a few callers calling in, all right. Let's go to Visalia and talk to Glenn. Glenn, you're on the first show of Extra Inning Post-Game Show. How are you today?
Bill, my second love is back to say, I hope. Welcome back, Bill. Bill,
I appreciate that, Glenn. And it's good to hear your voice. How was your winter? Are you excited about the Giants for the upcoming year?
The answer is no, Bill. I don't like hiring a manager who have no major league experience, but I always will be a Giant fan, Bill. Bill,
you got to give them opportunities, Glenn. I mean, these are things you have to give opportunities to, and I've said that in my open about operating opportunities for players. You got to give this manager some time to understand a major league level, understand major league players, understand what he has to do as being this manager. He's surrounded by some great coaches, some great mentors with Dusty Baker, Bruce Bochy, and Ron Washington, who's on his staff. So you got to give this gentleman some time. And I think that's what all Giants fans are looking at, Glenn.
I agree, Bill, and that's fair. Bill, is it possible that we can have a Saturday game called Extra Inning Gathering? That would be fun to see all the fans who call the show and sitting together and just watching the game, enjoying the game together, talking about it.
I would love to do that, Glenn. I think it would be a fun time, and I get to see faces instead of hearing voices. How's that? So we'll definitely work on that, Glenn, but I'm glad you're my first caller. Thanks again for your time today, and I'm sure I'll be talking to you throughout the season. Let's go out to Hayward, talk to my buddy Rick. Rick, how are you? 2026 season is upon us.
Hey, it's good to talk to you, Tree. Good to hear your voice again.
I appreciate that, Rick, and it's going to be a fun season. I think a lot of good offense. Of course, the bullpen, everybody's talking about, every analyst of every station. Can the Giants pull it through the bullpen? Well, I saw some good arms today. At least I heard them. And some good numbers coming out of a few people that are going to be battling for positions. But the bullpen's wide open, and we're going to find out who in hell is going to pull these spots out.
Hey, well, that's kind of what I called about. I'm excited about the offense. Adding a rise definitely helps the connecting of baseballs instead of no hits or lots of strikeouts.
Mm-hmm.
No contact is what I'm trying to say. Rise really helps the no contact situation. Bader helps the defense. So and getting Lee in right field really helps the defense too. But my main pet peeve is I think that Buster unfortunately didn't have the funds that other teams had. And so he did it through hiring coaches and more than getting players. And what I mean by that is looking at the roster right now, how many of these pitchers have had Tommy John surgery? You know,
a good handful. I'll answer that one to you, Rick. A good handful, no doubt about it.
10. Mm-hmm. And the players that Buster had to get, Adrian Hauser, Tyler Mahle, Sam Hinchkins, Foley, and Wicks all had Tommy John surgery in the last 2 years.
In the past few
years. Robbie Ray.
Well, you know, but Rick, let's look at Major League Baseball. You just can't look at the Giants. I think the Tommy John surgery has been done a lot. And back in my day, it was rotator cuff surgery. A lot of Tommy Johns do work out, and some of them don't. We both know that. But you got to give them the opportunity. And this word of opportunity is in my first show. It seems like I'm saying it every other sentence. But that is what these guys need to do. They're getting back out there and throwing. And if their look what Robbie Ray did last year. It does take them a year, maybe even longer than that, to get all their final pitches in. The velocity is going to come back. You know, I look at Juan Sanchez, and I mean, this is a kid that used to throw in the high 90s a couple years ago in spring training. He was one of the lefties that almost broke camp, and then he went to AAA and blew out his elbow and forearm. And he's a kid that's coming back, and it's interesting to see how he's going to come back. But you're absolutely right. Some of these big leaguers have had injuries, and they've had some successful years. And we're going to find out if this mixed match of a couple of these starters are going to work.
Well, question for you, because you know a lot better than me about pitching. Last year, Robbie had a wonderful start to the season. He looked like he was totally healthy. But the last 6 starts that Robbie had in 2025 basically killed the Giants. I mean, he was 0-6 with a 8.17 ERA.
Yeah,
I mean,
the length
this
of
is
the
what I'm
season.
afraid of.
Yeah, you're absolutely the length of the season.
Yeah, I'm worried that the pitchers that the Giants got will have good starts, but because of their past injuries, I worry that they just won't have enough. And maybe this is what Buster's thinking, is that he's got these younger arms that are in the minors, like a Carson Wisenhunt, a Blade Tidwell, a Bednar, even the young kid that had Tommy John surgery.
Well, I'm going to still throw Birdsong out there. I'm going to still throw Birdsong out there. This kid's got electric stuff. We just got to get over it and get some consistent numbers out of him.
Well, unfortunately, with Hayden, I think it's between the ears more than it's the arm.
Well, you know, Rick, you and I talk about pitching, and the tough part of it is when you're going good and you're getting people out, it seems easy. When you start getting behind hitters, walking guys, the strike zone shrinks, and next thing you know, you're aiming the ball. And I think that's what happened when he gave up that grand slam. You know, the pitching coach comes out, talks to him, first fastball, and I saw it on replay, down and into a lefty, and he didn't miss it. And I think the mistakes when you start doing that, you overthink. You just said it. Between your ears, you start overthinking, and you're not believing what you throw. And he's got 4 quality pitches. I had a nice interview with him. You're going to probably hear it next weekend. But it was really a solid interview. I really questioned a lot of thoughts that he had. And you'll hear it. I was going to play it today, but I thought maybe not today's a good day. I want to clear his head. I want him to get a good outing, and then we'll sit down and listen to it. But I listened to it. I talked to him Thursday, and we really got into some mindset and what he has to do on the mental side. And that's why I'm sticking up for him, because I really believed what he said and how hard he's worked at it. So we got to give him, what do you say, a mulligan today and see what he can do next time. But, Rick, we got a lot of pitching to talk to as the season progresses, but got some callers calling in here. But thanks for calling on my first show. And, again, Rick, season's on. You and I will be battling left and right as our opinions don't always match.
Hey, the best thing about today is it's they played a game,
That's
so
right.
That's the most exciting.
And we're
thing
off and running. They got to win. All right, Rick, thanks so much. I appreciate your time. Let's go up to Bend, Oregon, and talk to Steve. Steve, you're on an Extra Inning post-game show, first show of the new year. How are you?
Another year with Tree. Look forward to it, Bill. 2026.
I'm doing good, my friend. Yeah, I appreciate the call and good fan base calling in today. I really appreciate everybody buzzing in. And it's a new year, new voices, new energy. And today, what I liked about it, they fell behind 5-0 and they battled back and tied the game. And then the youngsters ended up winning it for them. But 9 pitchers pitched out of that bullpen. They all put zeros on the board. So you got to look at the positive side on that.
It's a young season, and I'm with you on Birdsong. Maybe the kid deserves a mulligan, but my goodness, Bill, I've never seen anything like this in walks since Steve Blass. Would just inexplicably start walking people. And the thing is Birdsong comes out of the gate, boom, 2.31 ERA over 11 relief appearances. And he was really good in multi-inning roles in those games, striking out 25 against 10 walks.
Sure did.
Second, he goes to the rotation. It's a 6.17 ERA, 42 innings, 27 batters walked. So it's got to be between the ears. And
it does, but I think what else? You know what else, Steve? It's getting behind hitters. This guy throws strikes. When you look what he did, the first 4 pitches today to the first hitter were 4 strikes, and then a little ground ball. Backhand by Fitzgerald at shortstop. I don't know if Adames could pick it up, but it could have been an out. I'm not going to say coulda, woulda, but it wasn't. So he's got a guy on first. He walks the next hitter, and he really battled Young and went to an 8-pitch at bat, and he was 1-2. I'm looking at my book, 1-2, and then it was 2-2, 3-2. Battle a couple pitches and ended up walking them. Wisdom hit the ground ball that both Kipe and Miller said that Schmidt most likely should have had that ball. Even Birdsong probably felt that was a double play ball. It went under his glove for a base hit, and Arizona hit. It coulda, woulda again. Double play ball. He's out of the inning, but it didn't work. He ends up, getting a ground ball and a walk by Kinsler. I think the walk by Kinsler is the one that really hurt him. That was the one he kind of fell behind on. He went 3-0 on him, and he turned it back, and then, of course, the grand slam knocked him out. Mulligan, yes, I'm going to continue to say it. Let's give him another opportunity, see if he can put some zeros on the board. A tough first outing for him. And then the 9 pitchers behind him put zeros on the board, and when you look at it, it wasn't even the A1 lineup the Mariners threw out there. So, again, could have been worse, yeah. But, again, Birdsong, I'm sure, is not happy riding back to Scottsdale.
So, I know you got calls lined up here, but let me ask you something, Bill. When you come out of the bullpen, you go into a starting rotation. That's a whole different mindset, isn't it? I mean, you're given 110% in the inning you're in, and if you're lucky, you get to do another inning. but maybe
You
this
know,
is just
I
too
think,
much
Steve,
for
I
him
don't
to
know if you
chew.
heard me. I interviewed him this week, and we really sat down because I went down when he was in East Illinois, and he started as a bullpen guy. His first year, he was terrible. The next year, he was all conference. And I said, you know, last year was big about you mentally being prepared to come out of the bullpen, but yet you did this in college. And he goes, I did, and he was successful out of it. So when he came to the Giants, they made him a starting pitcher. And each level, he was thrown 5, 6, 7 innings. He was dynamic. His first year, 2 years ago, he was dynamic. He pitched really well. Do you remember the Colorado game? 6 innings, 12 strikeouts. He was dynamic, all 4 pitches working. It's there, but I really believe he's just got to get some consistency to get out of this rut he's in. And you say it between his ears, possibly. I just think sometimes as a pitcher, once guys get on, you start freaking out. You start holding the ball tighter. The strike zone gets, shrinks. And next thing you know, you got 30, 40, 50 pitches, and you're out of the game. That's how fast the game is. As a pitcher in the big leagues, the game is a fast game. Hitters are good hitters. They don't miss mistakes. He's got to overcome this with his 4 pitches, and hopefully he will. And we'll see, but this is the first game, and we've got a long spring left, and there's going to be some guys competing. I really like Blade Tidwell. I think what he did today really opened up some eyes coming over from the Mets. Throws in the high 90s. His slider was sharp, nasty today, 3 punch-outs. And here's a guy that could possibly, fight for a rotation spot. He's a starting pitcher as well as a bullpen arm. So there are some people we'll keep eyes on. But today, I think everybody's a little down on Birdsong. I'm down on him too. But I'm going to give him a mulligan, and hopefully he'll come back his next start. But, Steve, thanks for the call. Let's go to Chris in Sonoma. Chris, you're on Extra Innings. How are you today?
Doing great, Bill. How are you?
Doing good. First show, Giants win. You got to love that. Coming back from a 5-0 deficit to pull this game out. A couple really nice hits. Bryce Eldridge, Elliot Ramos with doubles. Harrison Bader coming up. Knock it in 2 with a double to right center field. Some frontline guys getting some key hits.
Yes. And I wanted to talk about bullpen. Seems like this week on local talk show radio, this station and the other station, I'll say, there was a lot of, I think, criticism of the Giants for not having a bullpen, not signing anyone, signing 2 guys that are coming off injury. And I'm looking at it differently, Bill. I want your thought on this. I think what the Giants have done is brilliant. They've created competition, and you saw it today. As you said, 9 pitchers followed Birdsong, and they all did relatively well. There is great competition to make this roster, and that makes everybody better. And I just have
And you're absolutely right, Chris. And we've heard Buster Posey even talking about the catching position with Daniel Susek as your possible backup. And he brought in a couple other catchers. And he also said, and if you remember in the beginning, right before spring training started, he goes, I like competition. I like people fighting for jobs. And that's what he just said, Chris, about the bullpen. There's nobody in given certain situations, you're a long man, middle man, setup man. There are names placed there, but names don't mean you got the job. You got to go out and fight for it. And today, Jose Budo, Blade Tidwell, Mike Fulmer has some good years with Detroit. He bounced around a little bit with Minnesota and Chicago. Nick Margevich for the lefty who pitched with San Diego and Seattle. Caleb Killian who threw for the Cubs. These guys have some major league experience. Of course, they have not pitched a full year in the big leagues, but why not put them all out there? Why not go out there and say, here's the ball, put a 0 on the board if you want to win a job? And, Chris, you're saying the same thing I'm doing. Competition is great in spring training.
Yes.
So we'll find out, though, Chris. I think you're absolutely right about him not going out and putting a lot of money into relief pitchers. He's still got a good couple arms down there from the past, and the biggest question is Ryan Walker going to be your closer? Is he going to step up and take the ball and see if he can be that consistent guy? You got to have a good closer, and you got to have a guy that's got nails in his blood and and how he can overcome the negatives and be positive. I think last year with the ups and downs with Ryan Walker, I think he understands what he has to do to win that job, and I think he's got his name on it, but he's got to go out and perform.
Oh, Bill, what do you think? Where do you think Tidwell's going to end up? I know it's really early, but you know these guys a lot better than we do.
Well, Blake Tidwell's really a starting pitcher. Now, you know, you talk about what Hayden Birdsong did coming out of the bullpen. These guys will take the ball wherever they are. He'll learn how to pitch out of the bullpen. What they did and traded for Tyler Rogers, they got 3 really good players. When you look where Jose Budo, Blake Tidwell, and then you look at Drew Gilbert, all 3 of these players are going to be fighting to make this major league roster. I like Blake Tidwell. I interviewed him last year when he came over, and he's got some, as they say, he's got some sack on him. He goes out after you. He goes right at you with a good high-velocity fastball. His slider was tight, and in Arizona right now, that's the secondary pitch that's really hard to get over in the humidity and how hot it is. It was 73 degrees there. It's difficult to get a good break on a pitch, but he had a good one today, punched out the side after I think he gave up a walk. Yeah, he gave up a walk and punched out 3. But that's a good start for him when you look at 25 pitches, 14 for strikes. We'll see where he fits in. And I'm going to go back to University of Tennessee. Tony Vitello knows him. He pitched for him. And also, you know, you look what Brundage did with him in AAA, and he knows what he did there. Had a minor injury to close out his season, but he's coming back throwing good. So he's a name, I think, Chris, we're going to circle and watch a little bit more, see if he's going to expand on how many pitches he throws, and he may get a start here and there. But I think he's definitely a pitcher that eyes are on this year with Buster Posey.
I agree with that, Bill. Thank you.
Yep. Chris, thanks for the call. Great call on our first show, but I appreciate the calls. 415-808-KNBR. We'll take some more calls. Got a few on hold. We're going to take a quick break. I'm Bill Laskey. This is the Extra Inning Postgame Show, our first show for the 2026 season. Fired up with the calls, and we'll be back with more right here on KNBR, the sports leader.
listening to the former Giants righty. It's KNBR Extra Innings with Bill Laskey.
Sponsored by Lenardi's Markets of the Bay Area. Quite simply, the best.
Heard on your Apple HomePod by saying play KNBR.
Here's the 0-2 pitch. Swing, line drive into right field, base hit. Well, that's one way to do it.
Absolutely.
Just line a base hit out there. I remember Boch always used to be, when he was the Giants manager all those years, he didn't talk about, he didn't want guys to look for a ball they could hit a fly ball. He wanted to get a ball that they could hit hard. And he thought, hey, if you hit a ball hard and they catch it, we don't get the guy home. Okay, so be it. Yep.
All right, welcome back to the Extra Inning Post-Game Show with Bill Laskey, John Miller, Dwayne Kuiper talking about Drew Gilbert with a nice base hit in the 8th inning to drive in Buddy Kennedy, who ended up getting a triple on a ball that was lost in the sun by the center fielder. Rodriguez had a ground ball to short, but then Drew Gilbert came up with a 1-1 pitch and drove a nice base hit to right field for an RBI. Things that keep you going, keep you in the lineup, things that keep you as a pinch hitter. These are all things that add up when the season of spring training continues, and Drew Gilbert came up with a nice solid base hit right there in the 8th inning. You know, if you're not doing anything tomorrow, you can listen to the Giants game, of course, at 12 o'clock. But at 2 o'clock, my good friend Chris Haff, who wrote the book Willie McCovey, A Giant Among Giants, will be at the Ferry Building. He'll be signing the books and talking about it. Great book if you haven't picked it up yet. Willie McCovey, A Giant Among Giants. Chris Haff will be at the book passage in the Ferry Building if you have a chance to go down and say hello to him and get your book signed too. Chris is a great guy, and what a great writer he is too. Anyway, the Giants win today 10-5. The Cactus League champs, if you remember, they were the Cactus League champs of 2025 last year. Had a great spring, came into the season on a roll. That's what they're hoping to do, because Wednesday, March 25th, the only game in Major League Baseball, and that'll be the New York Yankees coming to Oracle Park to play the San Francisco Giants. Most likely, Logan Webb against Max Fried will have that. Netflix will be putting that on television, but you can always hear it right here on KNBR, the sports leader. All right, let's get to the phone lines. Let's go to Eric in Galt. Eric, you're on the first show of Extra Innings. How are you today?
Oh, doing good, Bill. Thanks for taking my call. I appreciate it. You know, kind of been waiting for this day all winter, right? Since the last out of the World Series, which was a fantastic World Series. You know, going through the off season, seeing what maybe new toys the Giants are going to get, and now it culminates into the first game of spring training, right? So it's like, hey, it's beginning. You know, the rain's gone, the sun is out, and baseball was on the radio. So hey, I can't ask for anything better right now.
Eric, I agree 100% with you. And on weekends, I'll be here every weekend, Saturdays and Sundays, on the holidays, doing the post games, and Monday through Friday, I'll be stepping in to do some of the post games, and I ended up doing some of the pre-games, the warm-up shows for the Fan Fest. Got a lot of fans coming out to see the Giants in all the different areas from San Ramon, San Jose, Sacramento. It gets you fired up. And today, once I knew February 21st, I had it circled on my calendar, the first game of spring training. And you know what? They fell behind 5-0, Eric, and came back and battled back in this game to tie it 5-5 with the regulars. And then your secondary guys pulled it out and ended up winning this game 10-5. And that's a good way to start your spring training, with a win.
Absolutely. And you know, that's something I'm going to be keeping an eye on here this spring training is the pitching. You know, the bullpen. Mm-hmm. You know, there may be a couple of positions open for there, and you got some guys out there that are going to be vying for those precious spots, so to speak. And you know, who's going to step up? And that's what's going to be fun. You know, you got a couple of guys in there today with Blade Tidwell and of course Birdsong, and it's kind of disappointing with Birdsong. It's not that, you know, it's the first game of spring, and I understand, but it's very reminiscent of why he got sent down to Sacramento last year, and then of course his time in Sacramento, he couldn't locate, and is it a mental thing? Maybe it is, because we all say he's got the stuff. It's just, but that's the thing. You know what? It almost kind of reminds me of a little bit, Bill. Remember Jonathan Sanchez had great stuff, but he just, for some reason, he couldn't find his own, and it seemed like it was just between the ears type of thing. But, I'm wishing
And,
luck to these young
Eric,
kids.
when I heard that Birdsong was starting, the first thing I thought is, man, they're rushing him a little bit. Maybe they saw he's been throwing the ball extremely well in spring training. I said this earlier in the show. I had a nice sit-down with him on Thursday, and we talked a lot about what happened last year. And I brought some of the other things happen when he did pitch well his rookie year. And I said that earlier to a caller. I even brought up Eastern Illinois, where he really was a relief pitcher and not really a starter. So going to the bullpen, going to the starting rotation, I don't think it affected him as we all thought it would. But, boy, he pitched really well out of the bullpen. And then he got in that rotation. The strike zone became smaller. He fell behind hitters. And then when he had to come in, and he said in this interview, when you make a mistake in the big leagues, those guys can hit a ball pretty far, Bill. And I said, yes, they can. And I think that kind of tells you a little bit about his mentality when he fell behind. He was just trying to throw a strike, and it backfired.
Yeah, maybe there's something to that. If he's having success out of that bullpen, maybe he just likes that excitement level, so to speak. Maybe he wants that intensity.
The adrenaline.
When you start you're right. Maybe he feeds off of that, and that's maybe where he excels. But I tell you what,
when you look at what he was throwing today, Eric, he was at 98. He was a 98.5. He had his fastball. He had an elevated fastball. He got ahead of hitters, the first three hitters. And then he, Young really battled him his second at bat. 8 pitches, 9 pitches was the walk. That was really the one pitch I was hoping he'd get through, that hitter. Wisdom hit a ground ball past Casey Schmidt through the hole. Who knows? I wasn't there to see it. All I'm hearing is Kipe and Miller talk about that could have been a double play ball, just got under his glove. And then you start thinking, Eric, just like what you and I said, his mental part of the game. That ground ball scores a run. The first 3 guys are on base. And what is he thinking? Okay, here we go again. Now, if you review that and turn it around, he gets a double play. He's got a runner on third with 2 outs. Then you start thinking, well, what happens? Is his mental game going right back to where he was? Because he hasn't pitched. He didn't pitch winter ball. So there's your mind game. Is it a mental game? And sometimes I think you and I are right by saying it. Maybe it diffused. Maybe he went right back to that. I got to throw a strike. I gotta push this ball right where I have to. And you aim it. And when you start aiming, things go bad.
Right. And who was nice was Michael Fulmer. He didn't have overpowering stuff, right? But he was locating, and his off-speed stuff was incredible. So hey, and he's a veteran, right? He's had some success at the major league level. So it was nice seeing him, and then of course Blade Tidwell, another young guy going out there. I really wanted to see him at the end of last season, but his shoulder kind of got cranky there. But he
got a little injury and they shut him down. Yeah, he's got good stuff. The high 90s, his sliders, wipeout. That's kind of what I was saying. Usually when you're in Arizona, your breaking ball, your secondary pitches don't come until like 2 or 3 weeks when you start throwing. You're starting to snap the ball a little bit better. And today I saw a couple highlights. His slider was nasty. And Susek threw 3 of them in a row. And even Kipe said, my goodness, those things are sharp. And, he got a sharp slider, and he's got a good cut on that ball. So that was a positive on his side. Maybe it'll open him up a little bit more. When you look at what he did on pitch count, he threw 25 pitches, 14 for strikes. That's pretty good for 1 inning.
It is. And if he has to start in the bullpen, I'm okay with that because it sure seems like the rotation, for all intents and purposes, it's pretty much set, right? Unless, unfortunately, you don't want to talk injury or nothing, but it sounds like
and I think that's kind of what John Miller, Eric, that's what John Miller and Dwayne Kuiper talked about. The starting staff with Landon Root most likely getting that 5th spot. You got 4 great pitchers and all veteran pitchers. Hauser had a great year last year with the White Sox, and then he got traded over and he had struggled a little bit. And Maile, when you look at what he did, Bruce Bochy saw him and had him, and Bruce Bochy was the one that really told Buster, get over there and sign him. They signed him for $10 million. He didn't throw, I think, 16 or 18 starts, but that's a good, solid start after the injury he had. And here's a guy that could be a 1 or 2 on his given day, and he might fall in that 3 spot, and that's a pretty good spot if you can put him in there and get 5, 6, 7 innings out of him in that 3rd spot behind Webb and Ray. Those 3 are solid, and I still think Hauser is going to surprise us.
I'm hoping, pitching. That's what the Giants. Look, I love what they did with the lineup in the offseason. I love the lineup.
Yeah,
my thing
agree.
is like,
and
let's
you know
just
what,
keep an
Eric? You
eye
know,
on the pitching.
I said this earlier. I said this in an interview. This team's going to hit. They got some punch in this lineup. Now you got Ramos more in the middle of the lineup, which I really like him. I never liked him as a leadoff hitter. And Arise is unbelievable as your leadoff hitter. He's going to put the ball in play. He'll surprise you. He'll go deep on you. But boy, oh boy, right after that, you got some thump coming at you, and this is what I like. I want to see Matt Chapman get better. Matt Chapman's got to have some better offensive numbers. Of course, his injury last year took him out a little bit. He's healthy, big and strong, and those are the middle of the order guys that are going to have to drive in runs.
Absolutely, and of course with the addition of Bader too, he had a nice little game today. Hit a ball hard off of a lefty, and that's what you kind of want to see. So, looking forward to the season, Bill, and I'll be calling in often.
I'll be happy to take them, Eric. And thanks again for your call, and good stuff right there. And I think the most concern for all Giants fans is the bullpen, and we'll find out. It's only the first game. We got another month to go. Don't forget, March 25th is opening day, and it's only February 21st. So we got a lot of baseball ahead in spring training to kind of weed out what he wants in that bullpen. Buster's going to have to really figure out who fits what roles and what is he going to have behind the top five that he's got. If Landon Roop fits in that fifth spot, which I would love to see as a fifth starter. He was the number 3 starter last year, and he pitched pretty well. He had some stretches that he really, really was dialed in. So we'll find out, but I'm really interested about Maile. I really want to see him and see what he's got. He's got 5 nice pitches, throws the ball very easy, outgoing, gets a lot of ground balls. And Hauser's another one that came over. I looked at his numbers, and with the White Sox, he was stellar, and he's got good stuff. He's solid. And you put him in the 4 spot, I think the top 4, if they can contend and get people out, and then you look at Landon Roop, I think this 5-man starting staff is pretty damn good. So we'll find out as spring training opens up. Of course, Logan Webb will be off to the WBC. He was probably most likely going to start today. He's probably getting a few more innings, getting his pitch count up, and then he'll be off to the WBC the first week of March. And we'll find out. This is what and I'm going to throw that word out again today. Opportunities will give opportunities for more pitchers to throw. More starting pitchers will get opportunities, and more innings will be advanced. And I think that's what we all want to see when you're competing for major league jobs. Sacramento is going to be loaded. The minor leagues is so much better now. Randy Wynn, what a great possibility of bringing him in. It's just things that are happening that we don't understand in the baseball world. Baseball management, the business side of it, really strengthened some holes with Buster Posey understanding what he has to have depth in AAA and AA, and I think he really gravitated to some new players in the pitching side and the hitting side. When you start looking at a guy like Nate Furman, nice double today. You look at Jake Holton, a guy that went 2 for 2 today. He was a free agent with the Tigers, ended up spending some time in Mexico. Again, you look at a Buddy Kennedy, a guy that's struggled for a few years. He ends up coming over here and had a nice at-bat. So there's new faces, and there's new ways to use these guys. And if you strengthen AAA, you have a good build right there. All right, we're going to take a quick break, come back with more. 415-808-KNBR. We want to get on the phone lines. Got a couple nice interviews coming up. You'll get to know Daniel Susak and, of course, my good friend, Joey Amalfitano. So that's coming up next, but we're going to get to these phone calls before we get to the interviews. My name's Bill Laskey, our first show with the Extra Inning Post Game Show, and we'll be right back right here on KNBR, the Sports Leader.
This is KNBR Extra Innings with former Giants right-hander Bill Laskey.
Sponsored by Lenardi's Markets of the Bay Area. Quite simply, the best.
Hear him on your Apple HomePod by saying play KNBR. Play KNBR.
And there's a check swing, and on appeal, ruled. I don't think the first base umpire was waiting to get the point for the appeal, and the home plate umpire went ahead and rang him up anyway. You didn't need to check. So.
All right, we're back on the Extra Inning Post-Game Show for 2026. My name's Bill Laskey. Our 7th year we're starting for doing the Extra Inning Post-Game Show. I'm excited for another great year. A lot of great interviews coming up, and, of course, a lot of great guests. But, you know, of course, today the ABS, the automatic balls and strikes, and sure enough, Jose Budo tried one, but he failed. Gerard Olivia tried one. Olivia tried one, and it failed. But what's happening here is you're getting opportunities. You're getting 2 times a game where you can test a ball or a strike. The Mariners did it. They won both of theirs, and the Giants didn't win theirs. Kipe is hilarious. Of course, him and John Miller were doing the game, and he was just like, Jose Budo will not get another chance to use the ABS. Olivia, he won't be able to use the ABS again. But, you know, you try it to see if it's a ball or a strike. It's all about the human element of your eyes against the technology. And today the Giants were 0 for 2, but we'll find out how that's going to work out. That will be in place for the Major League Baseball season, something that I think we're going to cherish if it goes the Giants' way. And if it doesn't, it might be close enough, and we'll find out who's going to use it and who doesn't. But again, the Giants win today 10-5, a nice start for the Giants, falling behind 5-0, coming back to tie it with 4 in the second, 1 in the third, and then winning it really 1 in the 7th and 4 in the 8th. And some key hits by some key hitters. Harrison Bader had a nice double in the second inning to drive in 2. Bryce Eldridge had an opposite field double to bring in Elliot Ramos, who led off the inning with a double. Daniel Susak, who we hear in an interview in a little bit, had a nice base hit. He's battling to win the backup catching position. Tyler Fitzgerald hit a pop-up that was lost in the sun, ended up getting a double and 2 RBIs. Played shortstop today. He's going to be used at all different positions, most likely as well as Christian Koss and Casey Schmidt. All 3 of those players will be used all over the infield. As a multi-player and a multi-position player is going to be key here when you got a rise at second and you start looking around the infield, Matt Chapman, Willie Adames, and then you start looking at first base with Rafael Devers and hopefully Bryce Eldridge. Bryce Eldridge was asked earlier by Murph and Marcus, well, how do you feel going into the big league camp? How do you feel getting more chances to be on this team? And he said, you know, I'm not looking to be on this roster. I'm fighting to get on this roster. I want to fight and battle every day. I want to relax and be myself in the box. I want to relax and be myself at first base. And if this all prevails and I'm on that line on March 25th, I'll succeed and try to be the best player I could be for the San Francisco Giants. He's 21 years old. The mentality of a lion, no question. He's trying to be his best, and I think that's all we have to do for a 21-year-old. Boy, he's got a lot of pressure on him, but he's taking it the right way, step by step, and I think that's what we want to see out of these young players. And when you got Devers at first base helping him, becoming a leader, Rafael Devers, I just want to see him play 162 games because this guy can hit. He's mashing balls out of Scottsdale Stadium, hitting them in the grass in right center field, hitting them over the promenade in right field. This guy's a monster. And we talk about players that Buster Posey didn't get. Well, he got a good one. There's no question. And we're going to see him hitting that second spot behind Luis Arraez, and then everybody behind him is going to knock him in. So the offense, I think, is going to gel. I think the Giants are going to have a great offensive season, as we all question that bullpen, and I think that's what we're going to see if they can succeed and find some spots for all these players and these pitchers. So we'll find out. First game went really well. Giants ended up winning 10-5. All right, 415-808-KNBR. If you want to give me a call, let's go to Andrea in Berkeley. Andrea, a new season. How are you today?
Good. Happy new spring training baseball season, Bill.
Yep, it's on us. And again, we go through spring training and another 162-game season, a new outlook, a new manager, new energy, new faces, and everything's got to start bonding from today.
Yes, yeah, perfectly said. I actually looked up Tony Vitello's astrology chart. He's born October 9th, 1978. So I think I graduated from high school that year, Bill.
Here we go,
You know,
Andrea. We're talking age already in our first show. That's great.
Yeah. No, the players, he's a Libra, so he's very relational. He wants players to get along. And he has moon in Sagittarius, a lot of fire and passion. And the players, said they really enjoy his passionate approach to the game. So Sun in Libra, good for relationships and relating. Moon in Sagittarius, a lot of fire, a lot of passion. Mars in Scorpio, definitely focus and intent. So he'll get the job done. So right man for the job. I actually was at the Giants fan
all
club,
good things
so,
right there, Andrea. Like I've always tell you, when you start defining these and you start bringing the adjectives that follow, they all follow exactly what we're looking at for Tony Vitello. And Shayna Rubin just tweeted out, he said, Tony Vitello learned in his first game how to manage. Nope, he said, I got to find a better spot in the dugout. I got drilled with a foul ball in my shin. So he's having fun with it already. And you know what? It's his first day in that dugout, and most likely he probably took a deep breath of air when he gave high fives at the end of that game. And he never even went to a spring training game before he announced. So that was the first game he's ever been to in spring training, and he walks out with a win.
Yes, live and learn. And I was actually at the Giants Fan Fest in San Ramon, and I was at the Q&A when he spoke. And, he really was very kind of charming and very relational and got the point across, signed autographs, and again brought that moon and Sagittarius fire to things. So that was very inspirational to hear him speak for the first time at the Giants Q&A in San Ramon for the fan fest.
And you know what, Andrea, you hear from the players when he talked to the pitchers and catchers, got them fired up. When he talked to the whole team when they all came in, Rafael Devers gets up and speaks, and I thought that was a key point for him to kind of be the leader. Other players spoke, but they all said the passion that Tony Vitello brings, the passion of trying to win. He was a winner. When you look at what he did in Tennessee, 341 wins, 131 losses, a winning percentage of .722. He knows how to win. He knows how to motivate. It's a different game here in the big leagues, but we'll find out. Each day he's growing to learn the game, understand his team, and really try to understand how to be a big league manager.
Yes, live and learn. And just so you know, Mercury retrogrades February 26th to March 20th. So allow extra time for travel, with baseball season sort of underway, and allow extra time for travel, some technology snafus, double-check contract signings and all communications. So good to know that it's coming up pretty soon, so to be mindful. February 26th to March 20th.
Well, that's all good stuff, Andrea. And I tell you, when you start looking at things like that and you start listening to, like I said, some of the passion that you bring to the show about what these guys are like and their signs and what they motivate to and what they dwell on. I mean, those are all key points in life. It's not just baseball, but you bring that out all the time, and I appreciate that. And again, Andrea, we're off to a new season. I appreciate your time today, and it's always great catching up with you. I hope you're well.
Yes, look forward to your shows, that blend of Sagittarius optimism and realism.
I appreciate it, Andrea. Another year. Thanks again for the call. All right, we're going to take a quick break. Sit back. I have a nice conversation coming up with a new catcher, and his name is Daniel Susak, and you'll get to know a little bit about him. And all those fans in Sacramento, you'll remember Daniel as he ended up being a great high school football quarterback as well as a great catcher. So Daniel Susak and I get to know each other. Coming up next right here on the Extra Inning Postgame Show on KNBR, the sports leader.
KNBR Extra Innings with Bill Laskey keeps the postgame rolling live right here.
Sponsored by Lenardi's Markets of the Bay Area. Quite simply, the best.
On KNBR 104.5 FM and 680 AM. The sports leader.
Welcome back to the Extra Inning Postgame Show with Bill Laskey. As spring training is upon us for 2026, it's always a pleasure bringing new faces in wearing the orange and black. And if you live in Sacramento, the name Daniel Susak sure is a good memory. Let's bring in Daniel. Daniel, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Well, boy, we got to go back to December 10th. What a day that was, as in Rule 5, the Minnesota Twins pick you up on a Rule 5 pick. And the same day, the San Francisco Giants trade for you. Tell me about that experience.
Yeah, I mean, was just kind of sitting there watching it on the TV. Knew I had a solid shot to go, but didn't know if I was or wasn't. Just found out watching the TV, was excited for the opportunity, and then found out about an hour later I was being traded, and excited. Just it was an exciting day for sure.
It sure was. And of course, the ties go back to your brother Andrew, who also played with the Giants, got a World Series ring. And these things all are good memories for you about your brother. Tell me about the relationship with him.
Yeah, I mean, he's obviously been the biggest person I've leaned on throughout my career, just asking him questions about the game, about life, just clubhouses, how to navigate certain things throughout baseball. And, he was big, giving me the rundown of the organization. He's always had huge respect for the organization throughout his whole career. Obviously, that's who he came up with. And it was just always a cool experience, watching him growing up. I was 2 hours away from the game, could always go drive up there and go watch my brother play there. So it was a lot of great memories of that field.
Well, what's even better, the president of baseball operations, Andrew, backed him up the whole time. Buster Posey, what a relationship those two have. And you have to
For sure.
talk to him, Andrew, about Buster and some of the things he's doing now. How was that first meeting with Buster go?
It was good, just kind of gave that talk to me, excited to have you, got to come in here and earn it. So it was a great conversation. Obviously, you watched him a lot growing up as well. So he was a great player to watch growing up as well.
That voice you hear on the Extra Inning Post-Game Show, Daniel Susak. Let's go back in time. Jesuit High School in Sacramento. You were a two-sport star, quarterback for a couple of years. Did you enjoy playing football?
I did. I love football. I started playing when I was probably 8 years old. My first ever Little League coach was just, kind of watching me, and he was a local football coach, was like, hey, I think you have a good arm. You should come out and play. And I fell in love with the game immediately. It was a lot of fun, played all the way through high school. Still, watch football to this day all the time. I love football.
Well, you had some good numbers in football, too. Quarterback, good throwing arm. And you had some speed. I saw a couple yards in rushing, too. Tell me a little bit about that part of the game.
I had a couple of yards. I wasn't gonna beat anybody in a race, but I made some good reads here and there. I would only really pull the ball if we were within 10 yards of the touchdown. I knew if it was any farther than that, I was probably getting caught. But that's why I liked football, though. It kept me in good shape, good running shape.
Well, Daniel, when you went on to Arizona and played for the Wildcats in baseball, just had tremendous seasons there. And, when you look back at Arizona, you started as a freshman and you moved up and you ended up getting drafted. What was the experience from jumping to Jesuit High School to Arizona? What were some of the learning curves you had to go through?
Ooh, that was a tough one for sure. That was definitely, in my opinion, that was the biggest jump I've made in baseball yet. Is that high school to college jump is, you might face that really good pitcher in high school once a month, and you get to college and you're facing them every single at bat.
Mm-hmm.
And my freshman fall, I really struggled, had some tough at bats, And our head coach at the time, Jay Johnson, really worked hard with me and, slowing the game down. And when I came back from Christmas break, put all that work in during the Christmas break time. And I got a lot better over that break, came back, applied it, and it kind of flowed into the season, gave me a lot of confidence for those next 2 years, and, worked out well.
Well, besides having a good bat, your defense is pristine. And you like throwing off your knees. You don't like throwing out of the crouch. You throw from the knees. Tell me a little bit about why you like to do it that way.
I like to go through both. I think, honestly, part of me is just if I throw somebody off the knees, it kind of feels a little cooler for me. But some of it has to do with, being a bigger guy. Sometimes it can be a little faster to get rid of the ball. And whenever I can get an advantage of getting rid of it a little quicker, I've always had a pretty good arm. So if I can sacrifice a little bit of arm strength to get rid of the ball a little bit faster, sometimes that helps me out a little bit.
Well, the pop time was outstanding out of Arizona, and you ended up getting drafted first round by the Oakland Athletics, 19th pick overall. A sensational day for you in the draft. Were you excited at that time? I'm sure you did because it was a local team. What were some of the other teams? Who else was talking to you?
Oh, I mean, you know how draft is. I mean, you kind of don't really know. You kind of get this feeling of you could go here, you could go there. You don't really know. Um, but I would say probably coming around pick 15 or 16 is when I knew the A's were going to take me. And, it was a super exciting day. I got to spend it with a lot of family and friends. So it was an awesome experience.
Daniel Susek joining me. Of course, he's wearing the orange and black now, competing in spring training 2026. So you go through the Oakland Athletics, and you had some great years in Stockton, Lansing, Midland, and then last year in Las Vegas, one of your better years in AAA. You hit 275, 19 doubles, 18 home runs, 68 RBIs. It was something that you graduated each year. What was the hardest step for you?
I would say, I think, honestly, the hardest step for me was probably my first full season. I think it was Lansing and Midland. Just, getting into used to playing every single day for 6 months, where, in college it was you play on a Tuesday and then the weekend, Tuesday weekend. That once you hit July, August, just kind of fighting through those times where you maybe don't feel good, but you have to have the mental fortitude to, kind of battle through it. Some of those ups and downs, your swing's not going to feel the best every day. So I would say the toughest challenge I had was probably that first season of getting used to getting in a routine, how to, treat the body throughout the season and making adjustments here and there.
Well, also the weather, and when you start looking at A ball, double A, triple A, and the weather always changes. Humidity in the Midwest. Those are some of the things. As a catcher, you're sweating pretty damn hard every night.
Oh yeah, especially in that Texas league, you go to some of those places like Corpus Christi or Frisco, and you get some serious humidity there.
Yeah, you definitely are hot in those nights. Now let's talk
Oh yeah.
about pitching staffs. You've caught some great pitchers over with the Oakland A's. The one big guy everybody talks about is Mason Miller. How good is he?
Ooh, he's special. I think what most people don't realize is yes, he throws 104, but he knows how to pitch, and that's what makes him so good. Is he's not just up there throwing it. He's pitching, he's setting up pitches, and he's a really good pitcher. And to see him keep getting better and better is really impressive.
Daniel, you're coming over to the Giants. Now, of course, you played in Vegas, so you did face a few of the pitchers from the Sacramento River Cats, learning a whole new staff, learning big leaguers, learning different pitches, learning what they like to favor with in different situations. Something you got to talk to, something you gravitate to each day. How's that been going?
It's been good. Um, Obviously it's a challenge. You got to meet everybody, try to remember everybody's names, and then now you have to remember their pitches, what they like, what they don't like. I think it was a little helpful that I faced a good amount of the pitchers, maybe more of the younger guys, but, knowing how they attacked me, seeing their pitch charts from last year, seeing what they like, what their put away pitch is, but also getting to pick some of the veterans' brains and what's helped them be successful. And maybe, I can apply that to somebody else. And, it's been a lot of fun getting to, kind of pick everybody's brain and see what they like and what they don't like.
Well, on the same page, Alex Berg, your catching coach, as well as Patrick Bailey, a Gold Glover for 2 years in a row. I'm sure you have your ears open to both of these guys. Alex Berg's fantastic as a catching coach. I've had him on a few times here, and he really works with each guy. There's something different about each catcher that he really work specific things with? What is he trying to make you better at?
For sure. He's been super helpful with me. Reached out to me once, obviously the Giants took me and told me stuff that he thought I could clean up, stuff I was good at that didn't want to change, which I thought was incredibly helpful was, hey, you do this well. Let's focus on what you don't do well more so we can make all those things more well-rounded. And, watching Patrick every day is just the easiest way to start learning things because you can kind of see what the example is. It's kind of the answers to the test and watching him and how he does it and trying to emulate what he does and how he does it so well. So a lot of the drills we're doing are, stuff that has almost become second nature to him that, I'm still learning through and getting better at each day. So yeah.
Well, you're talking about now in the major leagues with the balls and strikes automated thing, and hitters and pitchers are going to be able to question the call. You did it in AAA. Does it matter if you're on one knee or in a crouch? Is it going to matter if you can frame a pitch or not with that being implemented now?
I think it will for sure. It's only two challenges, so it's not too many. And obviously, a lot of hitters are a little hesitant to use them at times because you don't want to lose one because then you only have one left, and then you can get really hesitant if you only have one left. I think it'll really be fun to see how good catchers are at stealing strikes because some hitters are going to be better than others, where there's going to be a lot of umpires that have tendencies. It'll be fun to see how it gets treated in the MLB. I thought it was a lot of fun last year in AAA. It gets crowds really into it. It's a lot of fun when they show it on the scoreboard. And with only two challenges a game, I think framing's still going to be super, super irrelevant. So it's going to be a fun year.
How do you like catching? Do you like it in a crouch or do you like it off of one knee?
I personally love one knee. I'm a bigger guy, so being on 2 feet was a little tough for me to get, below the ball to work below it to frame. So going on one knee has helped me a lot. And being a bigger guy, when I can spread out, I kind of cover a lot of the plate for those blocks. I'm kind of already in a position to block and frame. And then arm wise, I've always had a pretty good arm, so I can kind of just stay in that position.
Daniel Susek joining me on a few more minutes on the Extra Inning postgame show. Let's go to the offensive side. Last year, 18 home runs, 19 doubles in Vegas. Were good numbers, but you also had good numbers in Double A and A ball, driving the ball, and getting good RBIs out of it. What is your tendencies in spring training? What do you work on now in the beginning, and how do you get ready for the season?
Yeah, I think each season has, a different approach. You learn things throughout each season. For me, I think my biggest thing this offseason is learning how to be ready earlier for pitch recognition. If I struggle, it's you typically, I'm swinging at pitches that aren't the best to drive, that I'm getting the bat on, but I'm not getting good contact, and it's that weak ground out. So I think being in a better position earlier so I can make my decision a more convicted decision instead of just swinging to touch the ball instead of now driving it to all parts of the field.
Daniel, do you like looking at videos in between your at bats? Do you like looking at analytics at the end of the game? Do you like looking at each at bat to try to make yourself better?
I would say like when we had the iPad in dugout, I typically only looked at it after a good at bat. If I had a good at bat, you kind of want to watch it a little bit, see how it feels. Keep the confidence going. If I struck out, I didn't want to look at it at all. That's typically most of my video as well. I'll look at some bad video every once in a while if I'm going through a tough time at the plate to make some changes. But most 95% of the video I watch is usually good video to keep the confidence up.
Daniel, adjustments are made constantly from one pitch to another. How do you do that? How do you mentally prepare each pitch? And what are you trying to do each time? Are you trying to drive the ball, go opposite way? Is there a plan you have going up to the plate?
For sure. And I think, a lot of baseball is that plan changes depending on the at bat, that pitcher, the situation. You know, typically with lefties, I like to see the ball in a little bit. I like to drive it because a lot of lefties try to get me to chase away, so I try to push them in. And then with righties, I like to get the ball a little bit out over the plate. Sometimes they like to go in on me, and I think it's there, and then it's a little bit too far in. So kind of having that mix of where to look, and then obviously the situation dictates what type of swing you're going to get off. If you're going to get off that, maybe it's a 2-0 count. Do I take a home run swing, or is it runner on third, one out? Am I trying to, either get a ball in the air or to the other side to score the run?
Well, competition starts, games are being started. You're going to be in there. I wish you all the luck for spring. And let's see if you can make that opening day roster. I'd love to see you in the orange and black when you play the New York Yankees.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
That was Daniel Susak on the Extra Inning Postgame Show. More coming up right here on KNBR, the sports leader.
Bill is back.
Fired up, bringing it, all excited.
This is KNBR Extra Innings with Bill Laskey.
Sponsored by Lenardi's Markets of the Bay Area. Quite simply, the best.
Listen on your Google Home smart speaker by saying play KNBR.
Runners at second and third, 2 down, the pitch. Swing, and there's a high drive out into deep right center field. Way back there goes Joe. It's over his head and off the base of the wall. That's going to get a couple of runs home. Scoring from third is Haas. Fitzgerald, the Giants' fastest runner, easily scores from second. And Bader hits a long double to right center that sailed well beyond Connor Joe. He had no chance to get to it. And now it's 5-4 Mariners.
Back on the Extra Inning post-game show with Bill Laskey, our first show, the 2026 season, and the Giants end up winning their first spring training game in Peoria today as they beat the Seattle Mariners 10-5, coming back from a 5-0 deficit in the first inning, scoring 4 in the second, 1 in the third, and then putting 5 more runs up in the 7th and 8th inning, and they pull out a victory 10-5. And you start looking at what happened today. Hayden Birdsong had a hiccup, no question. That's a Buster Posey. Probably thinking the same thing and giving him another opportunity to get back out there this week, get him another start, and forget about what are the things that happened last year. And he can't build off the negative. He's got to change it to the positive. But there's other things from the 2025 season that I think all of us fans want to see get better. And I think the number one thing is the fielding. I think that's where Harrison Bader is going to really help in center field. The Giants were 23rd overall in 30 teams last year. They committed 96 errors, a 984 fielding percentage, and that's not good. You got to get better than that, and I think that's what Buster Posey saw, especially in the outfield position when you got Bader now in center, Jung-Hoo Lee in right, and of course you start looking at what can happen in left field. And Elliot Ramos has to clean that left field up. He has to get better. He talked about it today in an article in the Chronicle where he said, I have to get better. I have to work on reads. I have to look at my decisions on coming in or going out. Things that he has to know and what he can do on impact. And that's one of the things that maybe Harrison Bader can help him. The other thing is team batting. And I think that's where Luis Arraez is really going to help this club. They were 25th in Major League Baseball last year with a .235 team batting average. Luis Arraez being a leadoff hitter, and you bring it up, everybody behind him from Devers to Chapman to Jung-Hoo Lee to Ramos. You start building off the top of the order, and I think that's going to change the outcome of how Giants can score some runs, and I think that's a key right there. Stolen bases has been a thorn in the Giants' side for many, many years, and last year, 29th. The year before, 30th. They only scored 68 stolen bases. That's it. 68, 29th stolen bases. Today, Olivia got one, but you got to get better. You got to be more aggressive. You got to read reads, and I'm hoping the Giants can do that. And getting a little bit better on the base path from first to third, second to home. And I think that's what Tony Vitello is going to have to be aggressive at. We'll dive into some of these numbers as spring training continues and hopefully see some different approaches the Giants do on the offensive side, on the pitching side, and on the defensive side. But these are things that spring training does. You have to see how these players play. And tomorrow, you get to see them at Scottsdale Stadium. And you'll see the top team. The top team's going to play tomorrow, the first home game. Rafael Devers, Luis Arraez, Willie Adames, Matt Chapman, Patrick Bailey. Hopefully we'll see this whole infield tomorrow. And that game's going to start right here, 12:05 on KNBR. Robbie Ray will take the lead. He's going to be starting tomorrow's game. And that's against the Chicago Cubs. Kerry Crowley will have the warm-up show at 11. I'll follow up with the extra inning post-game show following that game. Coming up next, boy, my buddy, Joey Amalfitano, 92 years young. I love talking baseball. I love talking history of players that played with some of the greats. Joey Amalfitano played with the New York Giants, came over to the San Francisco Giants. He played with the array of Willie Mays, Willie McCovey, Jimmy Davenport. And we talk about how spring training has changed. We talk about the olden days from Casa Grande to Scottsdale to how spring training is now. Joey's in spring training as we talk this week. He's down there to visit, talk baseball. And, of course, Joey Amalfitano, one of the great Giant players, as well as a manager, third base coach. Yeah, he wore the blue. He wore Dodger blue, but he definitely has orange and black blood in him. Coming up next, I sit down with my good friend, Joey Amalfitano, right here on the Extra Inning Postgame Show. That's coming up next, right here on KNBR, the sports leader.
The game may be over, but we know you want to talk more ball. So KNBR Extra Innings with Bill Laskey continues.
Sponsored by Lenardi's Markets of the Bay Area. Quite simply, the best.
We are KNBR 104.5 and 6.8, the sports leader.
Welcome back to the Extra Inning Postgame Show with Bill Laskey. I'm honored to have my guest on. 10 years he played in Major League Baseball. After retiring, he was a manager, a third base coach, and also worked in player development for the San Francisco Giants for over 30 years. Let's welcome in Joey Amalfitano. Joey, how are you today?
Bill, I am good. It's nice to hear your voice.
Well,
And thank you for the nice.
2026, Joey, 2020, new season's upon us. Spring training is going underway. Another year that you and I are engulfed in a San Francisco Giants organization. What did you see this past winter? What have you seen that Buster Posey is trying to put together for this Giants team?
Well, not being that close to it anymore, but I do follow things on the internet, and when something gets my attention, I read about it. And they made Buster. Let's say this about Buster league system: it wasn't very much to develop because when he came on board, I remember seeing his first game with our extended club down in the Scottsdale in the summer, and you could see that there was something special here, and he's proven that. And my belief is he'll be a Hall of Famer. Well, that being said, that what he's done is try to bolster up the club. If he got a second baseman here, I guess is a contact hitter, and it looks like this guy would his past records would hit in the top of the lineup. But that's for the other Italian. The new manager's Italian. I don't like him because he's Italian. I like him because I'm Italian. All right. That
Well,
being
Joey,
said,
the things that he did, he's trying to shore up some of the holes that happened from 2025. Defense is one of the keys that Buster's looking into. Picked up Harrison Bader out in center field, Luis Arise. And also on the left-hand side, he's got Matt Chapman as well as Willie Adames, two good, solid infielders. You were a middle infielder. You were a pretty damn good infielder when you played. But what is it so important for Buster to shore up this defense?
well, any champion, usually a championship team, Bill, as you probably know, that you have to have strength up the middle, and you take the past success for the Giants those years in 10, 12, and 14. They had that, and those players were developed in the minor leagues, and then they took their skills to the major league. And they were fortunate. I will say this: Wotus was a very conscientious guy, good baseball mind, good guy, and he got their attention. And they were not Crawford and Panic and Brandon Belt and Pablo, one of my favorites. Those guys are all my favorites because we got to see them develop in the minor leagues, and they took their skills to the major leagues, and they finished them off under Wotus's watch, the infield. I don't have to share with you. You saw them play more than I did, but I watched them on television. I watched them in the minor leagues. And what he's trying to do is strengthen the middle of the infield, the catching. I like the catcher. I just don't understand why he doesn't produce more but offensively after his first year. But anyway, and then they got the center fielder, which you just mentioned. I don't know much about him.
Yeah,
But
it's
if you're
a good defense, and I think you hit it right on there, Joey. Strength up the middle, and Buster being a leader as a catcher. Patrick Bailey is the catcher you're talking about.
yeah,
The
right.
defensive side, he's superb. On the offensive side, maybe this is something that he's going to grasp for 2026. Joey Malfitano joining me on the Extra Post Game Show. I want to go back in time. 1960, you were with the San Francisco Giants. Spring training's definitely changed. We look at Papago, we look at Scottsdale Stadium, but we got to look where you started. The Grande, where Horace Stoneham built a spring training site. A pretty tough place to have spring training, wasn't it?
It was 10 or 12 days. And I remember, like it was yesterday, Bill, the first car that left that complex to go into Phoenix, where there were night lights, not that they were out partying, but it was different than Casa Grande because it was just desert.
Yeah.
But the first car that would be leaving would be Mr. Mays, and you could hear it, the tires squeaking from the parking lot after the last practice there. And then we'd head into Phoenix and start our exhibition season. But there's a lot of fond memories there. Spring training, I think today it's probably a lot different. And the reason I think I say that is most of us are now as one of them groups that came in there trying to fight to keep to being on a 25-man roster, not alone the 40, but to play yourself on the guys. So it was always, you're fighting to stay on board, to stay there. But I believe today, because of the multi-year contracts and the city of the contract, I sometimes wonder if there's any fear.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm talking about? You
Oh,
experienced it.
100%.
You
And,
did. We were all under that
yeah,
group there.
that's what made spring training so competitive. The
Yeah.
battles
Yeah.
of the starting rotation, the battles of the bullpen, the battles on making the roster. But you're so right. But I want to talk about that 1960 season. The first year that Candlestick opened, it opened in April of 1960. The Giants did come over from New York, played 2 years at Seal Stadium. You were on that team. You were on that initial team that opened up Candlestick Park. What did you think of that ballpark when you first walked into it?
Hey, the first day Bill Rigney was our manager, and the workout before a game, of actually the off day, we went on the field, and we worked out at 1:30 because that's the time of the game was going to start, if I remember correctly. But I do remember being by the cage, and I was in the last group that was going to hit, and all of a sudden that was around 2:50, 2:35. You know the time, 2:35, 2:30, and 3 o'clock. It always seemed to be a little bit of a wind. And the riders were on the field at that time, and some player, it was Dale Long, if I remember correctly, he said, "Hey, does the wind blow like this all the time here?" And this rider says, "No, worse." and we've both spent some miserable nights there.
Sir Joey,
That
and I looked at that roster in 1960. You had a couple of young Hall of Famers. Willie McCovey was 22 years old. Orlando Cepeda was also 22 years old. The Cy Young winner, Mike McCormick, 21 years old. And I read a story where Juan Marichal didn't break up with the team. He had to go to AAA to start the season. Some young players that really were influential down the road. And of course, you got to look at Willie Mays. Willie Mays was a young, talented 29-year-old. But you know what? Those players came to play, and you were part of it.
Well, I was fortunate to play with McCovey in the minor leagues at Dallas and Phoenix, and we won in both years, and it was mostly because of him. And those guys, what a hitting team that was! My God, they could put that ball in play. And McCovey was really a very good first baseman. I often wondered why. I look back on all that, and those players, as good as they were, and we never won.
Yeah.
Never won. And which tells me sometimes that, I don't know, it's pitching and defense for me, Bill. I don't know about you. And I guess that's what Buster's trying to do there. Straighten out that pitching. They got some guys that are pretty good. Fix the back end. You got a closer, you got a chance to do something.
Yeah.
And he's got an offensive infield there. Whether they can turn the double play, that's something that the coach, whoever that may be, will have fun. And what he has to do, and for me, first he has to
That
coach
year in
in the big leagues.
1960, you guys were 79 and 75, 16 games out of first place. And the Pittsburgh Pirates were 95 and 59. They ended up in the series beating the Yankees. And when you look at that Pittsburgh Pirate team, Roberto Clemente was 25 years old, Bill Mazeroski, 23. Some really talented players on that team. What
Dick
was
Groat
so
on that team.
strong about that Pirate team?
Well, the manager, and he had the talent. And those players you just mentioned, they're all very good players. When you went in to play them, there was no easy outs. I know that talking to a guy named Koufax about pitching, when he'd look at the lineup, he'd see who he was facing that night, and he knew which ones he could not let them dominate the at bat. You got it?
Yeah.
And I thought he was a pretty good pitcher. Anyway.
It was such a tough team. They had some really talented pitchers. Vern Law, Harvey.
Yeah.
It was a talented team, but boy, for them to win 95 games, I didn't know that record until I looked it up, and that surprised me.
I was not aware of that. I was not aware of that.
Well, Joe, we talk about talented youth. We talk about building within. and you talked a little bit about 2010, 12, and 14. And you looked at players that moved up in the organization. Madison Bumgarner, Matt Cain, Timmy Lincecum first off in
Yeah,
2010.
yeah,
And then you
yeah.
looked at your three guys, Buster Posey, Pablo, and then you look at 2012, Brandon Belt, Brandon Crawford. What is it about the minor leagues developing players and then finally seeing them in the big leagues and then prospering to win World Series? What do you think? You were in player development.
Well, listen. I credit the scouts first of all. You know, they were the ones that recommended to draft these guys, and these guys came in and they were schooled very well for like Crawford. Let me just. I'm a real fan of this guy. I mean, I've seen a lot of shortstops you have and everything.
Mm-hmm.
What did Crawford do? Crawford took away base hits. You understand what I mean
Sure.
by that?
Sure.
I don't know if your audience does, but he takes away. He is special. He and Ozzie Smith.
Mm-hmm.
There was two guys playing shortstop when they played, which everybody should have protested the game, because anything that was hit in their area, you were out.
Yeah.
You were out.
And
So
defense
that,
was a big part of the game. You know, you talked
well,
about Ron Wotus. You talked about many other coaches that worked at this. This year, Buster Posey hired Ron Washington, one of the best infielder
oh
coaches,
yeah,
and it's going to
yeah,
be a big, big plus.
yeah,
And of
yes,
course, bringing back one of your good friends, Bruce Bochy and Dusty Baker.
yeah.
You're filling up a lot of knowledge,
Oof.
for this coaching staff, as well as finding out how to reach the pinnacle. How do you get to the World Series? What did you think about these three guys they pulled in?
You mean the three guys? You're talking about Boats bringing him back?
Yeah, Bochy
Oh, for God,
and
Baker.
Ron
Well,
Washington.
Ron, what you're talking? Well, I don't know about Ron, yes, but the other two, Boats, and Baker, there's a Hall of Fame spot waiting for those two guys. All right, so it doesn't get any better than that. But Ron Washington, he's a superb coach and a great guy. A great guy. I hope he's in good health. Anyway, he will have a lot of fun there, and hopefully, and not with him, he will gain their confidence. The player you're coaching has to gain your confidence, and he has to show. I think as a coach, you got to find out about that player. And you understand what I mean?
Sure.
What he can do and what he can't do. Don't overstress something he can't do. I don't think. With this guy that they got, I have no idea about his defense, but I know he's a contact hitter. And like I said earlier in this interview, as I believe he'll hit up and top the lineup, because they got some infielders there that can hit that ball. The guy at third, the guy at first, and the guy at shortstop, like you mentioned. They're pretty solid there. They're pretty solid.
Joey
Those are not.
Malfitano joining me for a couple more minutes as we finish up on the extra inning post-game show. I want to talk about a Hall of Famer, Jeff Kent, who is now going to be inducted in July for the Hall of Fame. Another superb second baseman that you watch play. And, things that he did offensively were unbelievable. Hit the ball out of the ballpark, played under Dusty Baker, believed in what Dusty had. What did you think about that induction that's going to happen this July? And what are your thoughts about Jeff Kent?
Well deserved. A real professional hitter. When he was with the Mets, I was coaching third base against them when I was with the Dodgers. And I asked him, he wasn't one guy you didn't carry on a lot of conversations with during the game. He and Mike Schmidt. It was already in the Hall of Fame. That doesn't qualify him to go in the Hall of Fame. But anyway, I did one night to ask him, what about you going over to second base? Because there was a rumor about that. And he talked about his thoughts. But then he came over to the Giants, and a Hall of Fame guy. Hall of Fame guy. I was fortunate when I was invited by Bochy and his staff to go in to spring training with them when I was working it. And he would come in as a guest of the club, he being Jeff Kent, and I dressed next to him, our lockers. And God, dog, it was interesting to talk to him. It really was. Yeah, a class guy, quiet guy, class, but could play.
Yeah,
And
he was a
he
gamer,
tough.
no question about that,
And
Joey. When the
that
game came on, he had that game face on, and he
and a
fought.
double play, he stayed right in there too. There was
sure
no
did.
Michael Jackson in him. He was right there. He was right there. Yeah.
Well, Joey, it was a pleasure catching up with you again. Happy belated birthday. You had that in January. It's always a
Yeah.
pleasure catching up with you, my friend, and enjoy that Arizona sunshine.
You stay healthy, stay safe, Bill. Thank you very much.
That was Joey Amalfitano on the Extra Inning Postgame Show. More coming up right here on KNBR, the sports leader.
You're listening to the former Giants righty. It's KNBR Extra Innings with Bill Laskey.
Sponsored by Lenardi's Markets of the Bay Area. Quite simply, the best.
Heard on your Apple HomePod by saying play KNBR.
Welcome back to the Extra Inning Postgame Show as we finish out our first spring training game. Giants win 10-5 in Peoria over the Seattle Mariners. Tony Vitello gets his first win. He's 1-0. Tomorrow, 12:05, right here on KNBR, the Giants at Scottsdale Stadium will be playing their first home game against the Chicago Cubs. Robbie Ray will be on the mound. And I'll be doing the Extra Inning Postgame Show following that. Got some great guests lined up for that show. I want to thank my two guests today, Daniel Susak and Joey Amalfitano. Of course, if you missed either one of those, check out the KNBR podcast. Thank my producer once again, Kyle Haar. He's with me again this year, did a great job. And thank you, Giants fans, as we start another year on the Extra Inning Postgame Show. Love the phone calls, love the interaction. We'll do that again tomorrow. For Bill Laskey, have a great rest of the night. More coming up right here on KNBR, the Sports Leader.